It's the story the nation is watching unfold in real time. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She lives alone in a beautiful home in Tucson, Arizona. One daughter, Annie, lives just a few miles away. Her other daughter, Savannah, is the anchor of NBC's Today Show and a former Court TV correspondent. Last Saturday night, Nancy had dinner with her daughter Annie and son-in-law Tommaso. Around 9:45 p.m., the family says she returned to her home. Sometime during the night, investigators believe everything changed. Surveillance cameras captured a masked figure on her front porch, wearing gloves, carrying a backpack, and what appeared to be a gun. By morning, Nancy was gone. Blood confirmed to be hers was found on the front steps. Ransom notes were later sent to media outlets. Savannah and her siblings publicly responded. Still, there has been no confirmed proof of life. Tonight, we examine a new note as the search for Nancy Guthrie intensifies. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you aboard. We continue our coverage of the story everyone is talking about, everyone is focused on, everyone is texting me about each and every day. And the question is, why was she abducted? Why was Nancy Guthrie taken? Was it some sort of vendetta against her or a vendetta against her famous daughter, Savannah? Is that possible, that it was just to go in there and get her and to absolutely torture and terrorize the family? That's possible, right? Was it a simple home invasion that went terribly south unexpectedly? That perhaps there was something happening inside over the course of those 40 minutes or so. And maybe the home invader's mask comes off and now he can be identified. And he's got to take her. And maybe he does something terrible to her that causes the blood, and he's removing her because he's afraid that there may be evidence left on her during the course of what happened. That's possible. An inside job by somebody who then creates this whole fantasy that it's an elaborate kidnapping when it's just a simple murder case. Or it is an old-fashioned kidnapping where she's abducted by someone who thinks they can get a huge payday out of this. And TMZ are the ones getting all the ransom notes, apparently, and giving the public some idea about what's going on without giving away things that law enforcement doesn't want given away about these notes. And then those are the pieces. Can you put those two pieces together? Can you combine the ransom notes and say, yes, ransom note connected to the man in the video? May not be the man in the video who's writing them, but they are connected. It's all part of the same conspiracy, the same scheme, the same overall plan. And the entire reason was based upon getting money because they know that Nancy's got some money, but her daughter has a lot of money. That is very possible. How about Savannah and her siblings? Do they believe that these ransom notes are real and that this is a kidnapping for money? Are they convinced? You know, we've seen them speak, we've seen them address the so-called abductors, or people who say they're the abductors in the ransom notes, and then other times they've spoken publicly and not acknowledged them. So where are they in all of this? And that's a tough spot. I think you almost want to hope that it's a kidnapping. You want to hope that it's a kidnapping that can somehow be solved and Nancy can be saved. But by the same token, we really haven't heard much about a payment of the ransom. So do they actually believe that the author of these notes or authors of these notes have any connection to what happened to their mom? I'm not necessarily convinced on that. But there was another new note today. Harvey Levin from TMZ was talking about it, and we're going to talk about it as well because it is significant. It's a little bit ominous, but that's another big development today. But there's an even bigger development from the FBI, and I want to show this and share this with you. Today, the FBI is increasing its reward up to $100,000 for information leading to the location of Nancy Guthrie and/or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance. Still think it should be higher, still think there should be some private money out there thrown at all this, but there isn't for whatever reason. But here's something else the FBI is saying. New identifying details about the suspect in the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie have been confirmed after a forensic analysis of the doorbell camera footage by the FBI's Operational Technology Division. The suspect is described as male, approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build. We all could see the video, but is that someone who is 5'4"? Is that someone who's 6'2"? No, kind of average, 5'9" to 5'10", average height, average build. Here's another key factor. Look on the right side of your screen, you can see it even better. In the video he's wearing, they've identified the backpack, the brand. It's a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. And that's important because now they can track other people that may have that backpack, people who know people have that backpack, the sale of those backpacks locally. What evidence do they have there? How many 5 foot 9 inch tall people are walking around with that backpack? Okay, today TMZ released a video they say was recorded just 5 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. TMZ says the FBI is lasering in on the man in this video who is both wearing and carrying backpacks right around the time of the kidnapping. They've blurred out his face, but he's got one backpack on his back. The other in his hand is probably closer to the one in question, the Ozark backpack. I'm not sure if you can positively identify it, but he's apparently trying to get into a gate somewhere, and this is at about 1:52 a.m. 1:52 a.m. A man, like, why does someone at 1:52 a.m. have 2 backpacks? Like, what is going on here? Just by itself, without even what happened to Nancy Guthrie, this is suspicious. Can they go and figure out how tall this guy is? They've got his face, so they have a better clue than you do on who this man may be. He's not a suspect, but he's obviously someone that they may, in fact, want to talk to. That's a lot of developments, right? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me tonight, criminal defense attorney, legal analyst Carmen Rowe is with us. Also joining us, criminal defense attorney Sydney Rushing, and finally, attorney Ali Benevento is here. Great to see everyone tonight as this continues to play out in such a public way, but you've got a public figure, and it's a desperate search at this time. Your thoughts about this new information that they've been able to glean? How significant do you think it is? And do you think there are people out there who may want to now, with $100,000, maybe turn in their neighbor, turn in their cousin? What do you think, Carmen?
You know, I'm curious as to whether or not this new note, which is asking for, I think, $67,000, which is over what the original $50,000 was, if that was the catalyst for them raising it to $100,000, that maybe this amount of money is something that'll motivate people to come forward and give information. But at this time, obviously, excuse me, we're still speculating about a lot of things, but it's incredible we're on day 12, but it looks like we're getting a lot closer to getting answers with this new footage that you just showed from TMZ. Really incredible.
Yeah, is there any innocent explanation, Sydney? 1:52 in the morning, 2 backpacks and kind of milling around trying to get into some gate and then getting frustrated and leaving? Like, what's going on in Tucson?
Yeah, so the thing is like, it looks suspicious just because of they see the backpack and they see the timing. But with that could be something that is totally innocent, nothing wrong with it. They could have been meeting somebody, they told them to come in one way, to their home this way. There's a lot to it.
Let me throw this out, Sydney. Let me throw this out, Sydney. This is the biggest story right now, right? It's everywhere. If you're in Tucson, it's everywhere and then some, right? This person is going to see this video online or on television. If you see yourself in that video and you're 1,000% innocent, of the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie, do you just make the call yourself?
Oh, 100%.
And if no, wait, there's part two. And if no one calls, does that make him more suspicious?
I wouldn't, I don't think it makes him any more suspicious than, it would. But obviously, if that was me, right, and I see myself on camera and I'm like, I have absolutely nothing to do with this, I'm immediately calling and I'm going to talk with them. And I think that's why we see the video is blurred out. It hasn't been, unblurred so that way everyone can see it, because they don't really have enough here to say that he is a suspect. He's a person of interest, obviously, but I don't think there's enough there to take him to the level of suspect just because he has a bag. Because again, we're looking at the height, the body build, the clothes he's wearing, because the one in the video there was wearing different clothing, which obviously you can change, right? But there's a lot here, and there's not just one or two 5'9", men that have this bag. This is a common bag. There's no special markers on it, no patches that would make it stand out. So that's what makes it much harder. But of course, that person's a person of interest.
Yeah. Allie, if this person of interest, right, and again, could be 1,000% innocent, right? And that's, again, why they're blurring his face. They don't want the public going after this guy. But if he came to your office, what would you tell him to do?
Oh, it would depend why he came to my office. But listen, I mean, I can look out my window. I'm not a good sleeper. I can look out my window on any given day at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And unfortunately, I will see people walking down the streets with backpacks. This could very well be someone who was looking in cars or, looking for loose change. It may have absolutely nothing to do with the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, or it might. And I know that the police probably want to find this person and talk to him. But, to the point earlier that if you had nothing to do with it, wouldn't you just, walk into a police station and say, I had nothing to do with it? Well, I think the answer to that question depends on how much do you trust the police? Because right now, like somebody said earlier, we're on day 12 here. The police are under a lot of pressure to find answers and to name a suspect to get answers. I don't know that even if I had nothing to do with it, that I have enough trust in law enforcement that I would just walk myself into a police station and say, I just want to let you know I'm not the guy. So I don't know about that, but I understand why law enforcement may want to talk with him, but I don't have a lot of confidence that this person is going to turn himself in and just let everybody know that he has nothing to do with it, even if he didn't.
All right, Carmen, how would the back and forth go with this guy if he walked into your office? Would you have questions for him? He paid your retainer. Don't worry about that. He paid your retainer. What's the back and forth, and what would you do going forward?
Look, Vinny, first of all, the retainer's the most important thing. Now we can have a conversation. But seriously, sitting down with this gentleman, I mean, look, I'm with Allie. We know who Carlos is. Apparently, law enforcement still has his phone. I'm not sure if he acquiesced to their show of authority or if they actually detained him lawfully. I don't know that they had enough to do so. So if this gentleman comes into my office, I'm going to tell him to act with caution, that he should go through an attorney, that we should talk about what role he has in being out there with 2 backpacks. I think it's highly suspicious. I don't live in a neighborhood where I see a lot of backpack carrying people out and about. And when you do, you call the police. I mean, that's suspicious behavior at 2 a.m., but particularly in light of the circumstances going on around you that we now know. But also from all the footage we've seen, this is a quiet, small neighborhood. So to have a gentleman of that age and size with 2 backpacks, yeah, I think he's got some splaining to do. So to me, we would talk in terms of, what are you doing there? Why do you have these backpacks? And why are you in my office right now? And make some decisions about whether the attorney-client privilege that we're going to keep sacred is going to be limiting what I would tell law enforcement if I had to versus what I would want to as a regular person.
And in Sydney, it could be something like, and again, I don't know what he was doing. I have no idea. I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there. Let's say he's up to no good, right, out at 1:52 in the morning, but he has nothing to do with Nancy Guthrie. Do you tell him to come forward? Do you tell him to not come forward? What do you tell him?
Right. And then, that's a little bit of a different circumstance, because if he's out there, he's like, look, I was breaking into these cars over here, but I had nothing to do with this. That's obviously much different, because then you're admitting to other crimes. And again, how Carmen and Allie were saying, that, they have to tell them how to act a certain way, whether they're going to tell officers one thing or the other. It's very unique, and it's all very circumstantial. But in that case, if you are saying I'm doing these other things, right, you don't want to admit to that. You never want to admit to a crime. But, there's also some, hey, I want to clear my head too. That's up to the client when it comes to that point.
Yeah, it's like your alibi is, I couldn't have committed that kidnapping because I was breaking into this car.
Breaking into cars.
Yeah,
right.
All right.
I'd polygraph him. Right. I would polygraph him, and I'd call law enforcement and
see
work
what
something
happens.
out if that was the case.
Now, the person who sent TMZ an email asking for 1 Bitcoin in exchange for information about Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper sent another email to TMZ this morning. Here's what Harvey Levin reported.
This morning, just after 8 a.m. Pacific time, he sent us this other email complaining that he is not being taken seriously. He says that he wants the Bitcoin, which is worth around $67,000, for several reasons. Number one, he says by coming forward, he will become as he puts it, a national rat. He also says, and this is a quote, he doesn't want to be, quote, incriminated like that guy Carlos.
All right, so whoever this is obviously staying on top of the story, is watching the news. But Allie, are you buying that this guy actually has information? Or is this one of those crypto whippersnappers trying to get their hands on some money? I mean, it's a strange request for just 1 Bitcoin.
It is strange. It does not feel or sound legitimate, but at this point in time, they have to take every lead seriously. Obviously, this sounds like somebody who wants attention and thinks that they can make some quick cash. I believe that if the person actually had Nancy Guthrie, they were motivated by money, they would put themselves in a better position to actually get paid. I don't know that sending a ransom note to TMZ and ignoring the family's multiple requests for more information, who do we pay, we will pay, we're ready to pay, would go unanswered if this was actually somebody who could follow through.
Well, this person says they have information about the culprits here, that they're not the actual culprit, but I have information about the culprits. So, Carmen, you can track someone's Bitcoin, right? If they give an address, I've had the expert on who explained it all very clearly, that getting it paid in Bitcoin is not your, you will never be found. As soon as you try to get access to the money, you'll be gotten. So why not just have law enforcement or whoever pay the $67,000, and if it turns out they don't have information and they're a schemer, scammer, then go track them down and arrest them.
Well, sure, but Vinny, you don't get the 67. Well, you don't get the 50,000 or any reward unless you have information that leads to the discovery of where Nancy is or the people who are holding Nancy, right? And so you're not going to get paid unless you have good information. I think this is a scammer. I think he's trying to take advantage, and he's just trying to get paid $67,000. But look, in reality,
but how do we know until we hear what he has to say? Why not pay him the money? And if he says nothing of use and he goes radio silent and just takes the money, now you just caught another case. Go catch him.
Look, you can't pay everybody who contacts TMZ, but if this gentleman is serious, he needs to go to the lawyers, such as myself or anyone else, talk to them and make a transaction with law enforcement if that's what they're going to do. That's what lawyers do. We're buffers between law enforcement to work as advocates and to negotiate on behalf of those individuals who find themselves in this difficult situation.
So you get the lawyer. Now, does the lawyer, like in personal injury, take 1/3 of the reward? Is that the going rate? All right. Carmen Rose, Sydney Rushing, Ali Benevento staying with us. When we come back, Savannah Guthrie posted another video. It's heartbreaking, but it's a heartwarming video. We'll take a look at that. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we continue our in-depth coverage into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie and bring in our own investigators. Are these ransom notes real? Tonight, we investigate.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee. Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property.
Sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
We're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The Hidden Murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We received your message and we understand.
Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you.
And we will pay. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help.
It's absolutely heartbreaking what is happening to this family. And when you're together with your siblings, and I think a lot of people have experienced this, right? When a parent passes away and you're together with your brothers, sisters, and family members, you tell old stories, you try to bring up the memories of everything. Think about what they're going through. Like, it's not that. This isn't, like, they don't know what's going on with their mom. This is torture. This is absolute torture that they're going through. So it was nice to see today on Instagram, Savannah Guthrie posting something a little more heartwarming, giving us a little insight into maybe what this family is doing to stick together through all of this. Take a look. And then there were some photos up there as well of Nancy and the kids when they're young. You saw one was in black and white, the old home movies. And hopefully they're sharing some moments like that, but still holding on to the hope that mom can come home, that Nancy will be returned. Nick Saletti from KNXV took a look at what's happening here in a big moment in day 12 of the search for Nancy.
As the sun came up on what is now day 12 in the search for Nancy Guthrie, a white tent went up in front of the Guthrie home for just over an hour, blocking our view from what was happening inside. The front patio, a place where key evidence has been found in this investigation. 1 week ago, Pima County deputies confirming blood on the front step belonged to Nancy. And then just 2 days ago, the FBI releases these images of a suspect, armed and masked, lurking on Nancy's patio the night investigators say she was abducted. Wednesday, we were there as FBI agents searched Nancy's neighborhood again for any clues. So for the past 15 minutes, we've seen agents with the FBI searching Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood once again, apparently looking for something. They haven't said what exactly they're looking for, but we've seen them search through some of this desert landscape area up and around Nancy's home and also around her neighbors. It comes as neighbors continue to hold on to any hope and lift this family up with flowers, candles, and prayer.
I think it's been very hard. I can't even imagine what they're going through. My mom lives here in town. She lives alone. Now I'm worried as heck about her. My husband's going out of town next week. I've asked my mom to come stay, because I'm scared to be alone. This is all very, very horrible. And there's no neighborhood that's safe. That's a false, I live in a nice neighborhood, it's safe. That's not how it is. But you don't think that someone is going to come to your house in the middle of the night and take you.
And that's part of the fear of a story like this. Yes, it's about Nancy Guthrie. Yes, it's about the family. But for folks who are watching this play out, especially folks who live close by, you start to internalize and personalize it, and suddenly you change the way you see the world, the way you see your neighborhood, the way you see a situation that you thought was fine is no longer fine. Like, this person now at this point, Sydney, is striking fear into the community because it hasn't been solved. And that's another reason why this needs to be solved.
Yes, and Vinny, when we talked about this the last time, that's why I think, though, this case, I think this is a more personal thing. I don't think that this is a random thing. So I mean, I understand the community, like they're shooken up, they want answers, and there's no answers to give or for them to get, but it's such a unique circumstance. If someone's, doing, like you said, a home invasion, they're usually not going in and taking the person out thinking they've hit a lick and they're going to get all this money. And then they're only asking for $67,000, right? So this is one of those things where it's just, I think this is a personal thing. This person knows Nancy, knows the family, knows that, they may get some money out of it. So I think I can understand the community's worry, but again, I think that this is more involved than just somebody at random at large.
Allie, this front porch has been such a big part of this case from the beginning. But if you go back 10 days ago, it was released, like the crime scene was released, and there were, anyone, members of the media walking up, taking the pictures we show you are there because the crime scene was released and people were allowed to walk up and take the pictures. And then today, all of a sudden, we've got a tent covering the area. What are your thoughts about that, the way that has sort of transpired here?
I thought it was very interesting initially, early on in this process, that they did open up the house and release it as quickly as they did. I found that to be incredibly unusual, especially given the level of uncertainty that surrounds this entire situation. Who is this person? Was it even a person? Because remember, early on, we didn't have that Ring doorbell camera footage. So, at this point, it appears as though they are going back and doing the things that maybe in hindsight they wish they had done initially, which is to take an incredibly close look at anything and everything that might give them some clues, because there's just so much uncertainty swirling around this entire situation. I think that's part of what, to Sydney's point, is making the neighbors and the members of this community so on edge. Was this a targeted attack? Perhaps. It certainly looks that way, but that thought and that uncertainty is what's making everyone incredibly nervous.
Yeah, the one thing that makes me hesitate on the targeted attack here, Carmen, is the video of this guy. This is not like who is this guy? Like, has he ever done anything even closely, or her maybe? Some people think it's a woman. Like, have they ever done anything like this before? Do they look like they're dressed to do it before? Like, to me, that doesn't make, that's the part of this that's like, well, what's really going on here? Could it have been as simple as a home invasion? He's surprised that she's home. She confronts him. Something happens. The mask comes off. Now all of a sudden he can identify her, knocks her down. She's bleeding. He's afraid his DNA is on her. And then he's just got to remove her because she's evidence and she could incriminate him. Like, I think that's still possible. I don't think it's probable, but I think it's still potentially in play here.
Sure, Vinny. And look, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, why this man is at the home. Once we see this video, I mean, this is primal fear. This is the fear that is struck in anyone who could ever imagine having a stranger, for whatever reason, come into their home prepared to harm them, take them, etc., or murder them, right? And so this is something that you not only worry about for yourself, but for your loved ones. And if you told me that this was targeted because someone said something, did something, or because someone has a lot of money, that's not going to change the fear for me, for my loved ones, the people in the community, et cetera. I mean, this is a difficult case that everyone is watching so closely because it's everyone's worst fear that this could happen to themselves or to their family members. And the fact that we're still on day 12 and we don't have any leads, we don't have suspects, and we don't have anyone. It's like a ghost came in, took someone, left blood on the front porch, and they're gone. And that's something that is incredibly scary to everyone.
Yeah. Sydney, I want to put this up real quick. It's from People magazine. Authorities are continuing to search Savannah Guthrie's sister Annie Guthrie's neighborhood in the hours after they released images of an armed figure potentially connected to their mother Nancy Guthrie's disappearance on Tuesday, February 10th. Officials with the Pima County Sheriff's Office and the FBI were seen searching the neighborhood and asking neighbors questions. That's interesting. And they've also gone into Annie's house. They've taken mail from her mailbox. What's going on there, Sydney?
Well, you know, I've seen, you know, some of the theories in this, and that and that Annie's husband is involved or potentially involved, or his bandmates. So that's why, you know, you see them going in and asking the neighbors for, you know, did you see anything this night? Did you see anything that was suspicious? Did you hear anything? They're going through her house. They're doing what they can, right? They're doing what they can to try and solve this, because at this point, they still really don't have anything. We have a video now of a person, but we don't have anybody to base that on. You can look at that video and think, you know, those eyes, we can tell those eyes, or we think we see a mustache, but you just never know because of the mask. It does obstruct it. But, you know, at this point, they're following every lead and, you know, really just at this point doing what they can to try and, you know, get answers.
All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back tomorrow, we will be on a verdict watch here at Court TV in the case against Paul Caneiro, accused of murdering his brother, his sister-in-law, his niece and nephew, then setting their mansion on fire, and then setting his own house on fire. We'll talk about it next.
Can you rely on this DNA evidence to say that this man is guilty? The reliability of that is called into question by the transfer and the contamination I just mentioned. And it is also called into question with the fact that when they used the StarMix software for certain samples, they did not test anyone else's DNA against it other than Jennifer, Jesse, Sophia, Keith, and Paul. Why does this matter? Because we don't have, for example, Corey's DNA.
We've had some lengthy closing arguments in a lengthy trial of Paul Caneiro, accused of murdering his brother and his family over money issues. Basically is the allegation that he was taking money from his brother, was afraid that in the future he would not have his job anymore, and this was a financially motivated mass murder of his own family members. Unbelievable. Well, the defense took some extra time, so it took a little extra time for prosecutors to finish up their closing argument. Let's take a listen.
Just admit it. Admit it, and we're not here. Admit it to your brother. Do something about it. And we're not here. You're not here. Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are. Terrible reason to kill a whole family. But only one person has any reason to kill that family, and it's him. To the negative. When we talk about Miss Wallace, and I won't belabor, but Miss Wallace said it best in openings when she talks about those 3 income streams that Mr. Caneiro has. He's got the payroll, right? He's getting paid. His family, he and his family are getting paid by Square One and EcoStar. He's got the disability, and then he's got the piggy bank taken from Keith. Those are the steady income streams in 17 and 18. Okay? If they get rid of EcoStar, he doesn't have that. If Miss Basu and Peter Simmons from Doris Duke say, you got a year or you don't have anything, we're moving on. He's got nothing but the disability. And it's not enough for the way he lives. It's just not enough. And he's not willing to make it work. Also, though, when we talk about motive, right, we know there's that $1.5 million from the trust account, right? And you really haven't heard us standing here. Ms. Wallace explained it in opening. We're not saying that, like, he killed Jesse, Sophia, Jennifer, and Keith for $1.5 million. That's part of it. I'd submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that had to be the only reason that he went back inside that house or went inside that house. Because that's gotta be the motivation to go in and get rid of Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia. He killed his brother. I mean, again, I said it yesterday, not justifying, but saying he purposely, knowingly killed his brother. And it doesn't make it right. None of this makes anything right. But like, that's why you heard all for 5 weeks, you heard about why it's so believable how he could kill his brother. It's so believable. Just understand the context and the build up and the jealousy and the, I'm not doing this for you, Keith, anymore. I'm not coming over and fixing this, fixing that. You can understand that. But the only reason after you execute your brother, that you make that conscious decision to walk inside that house, that dark house, betray that trust, is because the money's inside, right? The only way he gets anything, he just doesn't get anything other than, he doesn't even get anything from the businesses. Presumably it would have gone to Jennifer and the family, right? They're 50%, they're 90%. Only motivation to go in there is money. Now, does it make sense? I don't know. I struggle. Why? Why would he kill Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia? Why? The only thing you could think is that it's $1.5 million reason why. He's already killed his brother. He's going the rest of the way because he knows it's how he benefits. But assume for 1 second that maybe Jennifer came out and caught him, and that's why he had to do what he had to do, right? Jennifer walked out because she heard the gunshots, runs back inside, game on, right? Kids come down because they hear the commotion. I don't know what the answer is, to be quite frank with you. I don't know. I can't get inside Mr. Caneiro's house. All I know is that he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it. I wish I could come up with a reason. I have no reason. I could never come up with a reason to tell you why he did what he did to the kids. I don't know what to tell you. But he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it. This shutting cameras off and DNA transfer, and God only knows why my niece's and nephew's DNA is on my jeans in my basement. You know, why would I lead police there? Maybe he tried to destroy it and he just didn't do a good job. But he did it.
Great lawyers on both sides of this case. I mean, the closing argument is long, I get it, but very passionate, playing to whatever strength each side has. I'm just going to throw this out to all three of you. We'll start with Allie and then just take it over. What are your thoughts as we're on the eve of a verdict watch about this case? This could be an easy one, tough one for the jury.
I think it's going to be tough. You know, I think what the prosecution is doing is trying to get this jury to focus on his behavior. I think they know that a lot of their case is a little bit circumstantial. And so I think if they can get the jury to believe that he engaged in all of these deceptive actions to cover up his behavior, that is indicative of guilt. And so, you know, if the jury does believe that there were these fires that were staged and he did all this, went through all of this effort, that they will tend to believe that he's guilty. And I can't get over how much this financial aspect also reminds me of a case very close to me in my home jurisdiction, which is the Murdaugh case, this aspect of the financial motivation and this family annihilation. But I do think that they're going to focus on his behavior after the fact.
Right. And I think that the whole family being killed, I think, is something that is really working against him because, like they said, he is the sole beneficiary now of the $1.5 million versus what Jennifer and the kids would get, and he would get nothing. They also could have been witnesses. There's so much here, and it's the defense attorney. She did a great closing statement, but sometimes when you have something that's that long and that drawn out, and you're pointing to every single witness, you can get lost in the sauce, and sometimes you can lose the jury's attention. And closing argument is so important. That's the last thing that they hear before they go back. So you really, 5 hours is a very long closing argument.
2 Too long.
Yeah,
I agree, Sydney. Too long.
I personally think that the best evidence for the defense in this case is this notion that he would kill his brother and his brother's entire family, including children, for money. I think it's going to be difficult for the jury to wrap their head around it, just like it was difficult for the prosecutor to suggest that could be the only motive, even if it's $1.5 million. I think that's the best chance that the defense has of getting one juror to believe that there's reasonable doubt in this case.
And I'll just,
I think it also hurts.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to warn. I was going to warn the viewers that I don't expect it to be a super fast deliberation. Obviously, you don't know, but this was a long case with a lot of evidence and obviously some very long closing arguments. So it's going to take time just for them to wrap their arms around all the evidence and kind of figure it out amongst themselves. But go ahead. I don't know who's jumping in. Was that Allie?
No, Vinny, I was going to say, though, I think something that also hurt the defense is that the defendant didn't show any emotion. There was like no emotion happening when they were talking about the niece and nephew dying. I would be losing my absolute mind. If I was on trial and that's my niece and nephew that I'm alleged to have, killed, I would not be able to hold it together. There was zero emotion the entire time is how he looks, just very stoic and straightforward. And, that's not the best look, I don't think.
But the pastel sweater really softens him for the jury. I think it's going to work. You don't want to wear a harsh color. All right, big thank you, Carmen Rowe, Sydney Rushing, Ali Benevento. Always great to have you here. When we come back, something else you need to know tonight. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, as the search for Nancy Guthrie and her abductors continues, the coverage on traditional media and social media is overwhelming. Are the suspects watching the coverage? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
She loved her kids, she loved her husband.
I know her innocence.
But she's also charged now with his murder. I never knew evil like this existed.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Take a look. Big settlement. Who is that? That's Buster Murdaugh. The Murdaugh who didn't kill anyone in his family and who wasn't killed by Alec Murdaugh, his son, next to folks inside the courtroom during his dad's trial. He sued a bunch of media corporations, accusing them of defamation. All of this relating to portraying him as the killer of Stephen Smith. Well, guess what? He reached a settlement. They're not revealing the numbers there, but my experience tells me he did okay. And hopefully he did okay, because the last time he was spotted, Buster Murdaugh, he was working as looked like a sales clerk in a clothing store. Take a look.
How about that? So they're okay.
And there he was, and hopefully this money helps him out a little bit, helps his wife out, because he got a raw deal. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just born into that family, and hopefully he can move forward from this point. All right, take a look at your screens. We have a missing child who needs your help. This is Liliana Lynn Bolenstein, missing out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, just 16 years old. Please, if you see Liliana, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Fort Wayne Police Department in Indiana. That number's up on your screen. Let's see if we can get Liliana to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.